So, let's talk about a huge problem. Imagine you're trying to predict a flood, but you don't even know how much it rained. It sounds kind of impossible, right? Well, it's a surprisingly common and really dangerous issue for climate scientists. But a new study is using AI to basically solve the case of the missing rain. And this isn't just some thought experiment. For communities all over the globe, this is a real life and death situation. So, what do you do? What can you do when the most crucial piece of the puzzle is just gone? Okay, so let's take a look at a real-world example. This is Thailand's Southern Basin. Each one of those dots you see, that's a rainfall station, a super critical source of info. But, and here's the big problem, they're kind of like old light bulbs. They flicker, they die out, equipment fails, connections drop, you name it. And what you're left with are these huge, really frustrating gaps in our data. And this isn't just about, getting the weekend forecast wrong. No. We're talking about farmers losing entire crops, families losing their homes, even governments trying to make these massive billion-dollar decisions about infrastructure using dangerously incomplete information. The stakes, they literally couldn't be higher.
All right, so how do you solve a mystery like this one? It's like you've got two key witnesses, but they just can't seem to agree on the facts. So let's meet our two main suspects, the data we get from ground stations and the data we get from satellites.
So here's the deal, right? It's a classic trade-off. On one hand, you've got the ground stations. They're incredibly accurate. I mean, we're talking pinpoint perfect. But they're kind of like a fancy Swiss watch with a dead battery. They don't always work, which leaves you with those annoying data gaps. Then you have the satellites. They see everything everywhere all the time. So what's the catch? Well, they tend to exaggerate a lot. Yeah, you can kind of think of the satellite as that one friend who always tells an amazing story, but you have to take everything they say with a huge grain of salt. It gets the big picture right for sure, like, yep, a storm happened, but it consistently overestimates the details, especially when the rain is really coming down hard. And just look at this. You can see it right here. See those scattered orange dots? That is the satellite's wild exaggeration in action. I mean, they're all over the place compared to the ground truth. But with a little bit of statistical magic called Quantile Transformation, the researchers were able to bring that satellite story right back down to Earth. Look how it aligns with reality. See those tight blue dots? That's what I'm talking about. So this whole process of filling in the blanks, it actually has a name. It's called Rainfall Imputation, and it's exactly like being a digital detective, carefully piecing together a crime scene when you only have a few clues, trying to reveal that full picture. Okay, so to solve a case this important, you can't just wing it, right? The researchers needed a solid plan, so they developed this really rigorous 5-step framework that would lead them straight to the truth. I know, this looks like a giant bowl of spaghetti, but trust me, the logic behind it is actually brilliant, and it's not nearly as complicated as it looks. Let's just break down the core strategy here. Okay, so here's the plan in plain English. Step 1. You gather all your evidence, that's the ground and satellite data, and you fix the satellite's exaggerated story. Step 2, you organize the crime scene by grouping similar stations together. Step 3, you figure out the most important clues for the AI to focus on. Step 4, you train your AI detectives. And finally, Step 5, you see which one actually cracks the case. All right, now for the main event. We've gathered the evidence, we've prepped our AI detectives, and it is time to see which one of them can solve the case of the missing rain. This is the AI model showdown. And the results? Honestly, it was a total game changer. It turns out that adding that corrected satellite data made all the difference. Without it, the AI was pretty much just guessing. But with it, whoa, it was like flipping on the lights in a pitch-black room. I mean, just look at the difference here. On the left, that's what you get using only ground station data. The predictions are, well, they're a total mess. But on the right, once you add in that corrected satellite data, it's a masterpiece of precision. See how the points just snap right into that perfect line? That is the power of combining smart data with AI. Okay, so we know the right data is absolutely the key. But what about the detectives themselves? The researchers tested out 3 different AI models. Now, they're all what we call tree-based, which basically means they work kind of like a game of 20 questions. They ask a series of simple questions to narrow down the possibilities until they find the right answer. So the question is, which one asks the best questions? And the winner is Extra Trees. While all the models did a really good job, the Extra Trees algorithm, or ET for short, consistently delivered the most accurate and the most reliable predictions.
But here's the part that's truly amazing. The researchers tried to trip it up. They hid half the evidence, and the extra trees model still solved the case. Its secret? Well, it injects a bit more randomness into how it makes its decisions. And what that does is it stops the model from getting too fixated on any noisy or weird data points. It makes it not just accurate, but incredibly tough and resilient. Okay, so what does all this mean for the rest of us, for the real world? Let's take a step back from the nitty-gritty methods and just look at the big picture for a second. So here are the key takeaways. First, that corrected satellite data is your absolute secret weapon for filling in data gaps. Second, grouping those stations into logical regions, that smart organization is key for getting better results. Third, for this kind of task, the extra trees algorithm is the MVP. For sure. And finally, this whole framework is just remarkably tough. It works even when half the data is missing. And you have to remember, this isn't just a story about one region in Thailand. This is a blueprint. It's a scalable, reproducible method that any community, anywhere in the world, can use to fill in the gaps in their own climate data. This is how we can help build a safer, more resilient future. So we've solved the case of the missing rain, but it really leaves you wondering, doesn't it? What other critical mysteries are hiding out there in our climate data, just waiting for the right AI detective to come along and uncover the truth? The possibilities are pretty much endless.